So all in all, 2014 was a pretty disappointing year for video games. There was many titles that we thought would impress, and they just fell flat or did not even come close to living up to expectations. And I also know I haven't been doing reviews lately, so I can at least do this amidst the very, very disappointing games, most of all Destiny. Far Cry 4. With Far Cry 4, it was nowhere near as good as Far Cry 3 in my opinion, but its open world was amazing and something to behold. Besides that, it wasn't really all that well. I didn't think the story was as well as the third one. The villain, Ping, wasn't as good as Voss. And what really, really annoyed me was that instead of feeling like I was doing something, collecting collectibles, and finding all these side mission stuff, it felt like it was just filler, and it took up most of the time in the game just to collect random things, and it didn't even reward you. Maybe you got money here and there, but yay, but if you collect all of like these murder collectibles, nothing happens, you don't get anything to help you, and it felt like a huge waste of time, and then you combine that with the story, and it just did not live up to my expectations. Costume Quest 2 was so adorable, and I just absolutely loved it and the first game, which is why I ended up getting it. But Costume Quest 2 was just, lovable, homey humor that actually worked. It wasn't really corny. The story was actually pretty good for a sequel after the first one opened up this whole, different dimensions and stuff, and the second one comes in with time travel and blows it out of the water. Gameplay was still phenomenal, still fun, but it just didn't quite offer enough as a whole to actually win my Game of the Year. Middle of Earth, Shadow Mordor. This was probably, the sleeper hit amongst all the games that released this year. And it felt, Assassin's Creed meets Batman in a way. And it worked. It really did work. It was fun, it was very visceral, and it actually felt like it was a part of Tolkien's canon. The only problem is, it kind of failed towards the end. The boss battle, final boss, wasn't really much, and the gameplay did kind of get stale after a while, but it still was enjoyable traversing the area and killing all these different orcs and finding all these different, trolls and orcs and whatever you want to call it to just defeat, and I felt like that really did work, but as a whole, the game just couldn't quite come together. Watch Dogs. Now, before any of you bite my head off, let me explain. Yes, Watch Dogs was one of the games that was a very big disappointment compared to what we were expecting, but it was nowhere near the disappointment level of like Destiny and Assassin's Creed Unity. Nowhere near. In my opinion, I really did enjoy the open world gameplay. I enjoyed the technological hacking scheme of the entire game. And the story was flawed, but I did enjoy it despite Aiden not being a very resembling, relatable character. But the open world, all the side missions that actually do feel like they play a part in your adventure and story, and the multiplayer was actually pretty fun. South Park Stick of Truth. This game, although it really didn't feel like a game to me, it actually felt like an interactive TV show, but it was a very good game. And honestly, if I had to rank all of these, South Park Stick of Truth would probably be number 2 in all of them. But it was really funny, it was really original, it didn't do that, ripping off of a TV or movie thing. It had its own feel, it had its own humor, and it had its just awesomeness to it that I feel if it had more than 8 hours of stuff, and it had more than, 16-ish or so locations, this would have won Game of the Year hands down in my opinion. Borderlands pre-sequel was nowhere near as good as Borderlands 2, I'll say that right now. However, due to the disappointing year of video games, I needed something to pad the list, and that's where Borderlands pre-sequel came in. I enjoyed the game, I love the Borderlands series, I love the guns, I love the humor, it was all there, it just was not anywhere near the level of Borderlands 2. And honestly, towards the middle of the game where you have to go to a certain area, it just feels like it's way too drawn out, way too convoluted, and it really did break the pacing of the game. But Borderlands pre-sequel is everything that Borderlands fans love. So, Infamous Second Son wins primarily because it was what it was advertised. As I said in my review of the game that's on my website, it was everything beautiful about Next Gen. Everything that was there, it was promised. There was amazing graphics, there was amazing gameplay that the Infamous series is known for. The free roam was amazing, although not quite as big in my opinion as the second game, but still pristinely just detailed and textured and just amazing to look at. But I cared about the characters, I cared about the story, I loved the main villain who was kind of like this, I guess, I don't know, armed forces type appeal to her, who was doing what she thought was right, and it wasn't really wrong, but it was wrong at the same time. I love that whole premise. Seriously, the only thing that would have made this game better is if it had more end-game content, but that's not really to be expected in an Infamous game as of yet. But the DLC that came out for it a few months later, that was still fun. I loved it, and I recommend it to anyone that should play it who hasn't already if you enjoyed it the second time.